The Gaza Strip, 25 miles long and just a few miles wide, inhabited by almost 2 million people. It's the third most densely populated place on Earth. In 2005, Israel granted the people of Gaza democratic elections. They elected Hamas, a fundamentalist military party. In response, Israel, which controls Gaza and everything in it, ordered a blockade around the Strip. No passage for its residents, either by land, sea, or air. Today, about 40% of the population live in poverty. About one quarter are unemployed, more than half are food insecure, and 90% of the water from the aquifer is undrinkable. Gaza is known as the world's largest open-air prison. In the 15 years since the blockade began, Gaza was host to several bloody incursions. Operation Protective Edge in 2014, Operation Pillar of Defense in 2012, and Operation Cast Lead in 2008.
We are talking about 300 children killed. And the second one in 2012, we are talking about 30 children were killed. And the third one in 2014, we are talking about more than 500 children killed under 18 years old.
That was Assad Ashur, a Palestinian and chief education officer of the Norwegian Refugee Council, located in Gaza.
Regardless of the number of deaths of children or children died during the three operations, these children also witnessed a big number of their siblings, their relatives who have been passed or killed during the three wars. Many of these children traumatized because we are talking about traumatic events. This is one of the big traumatic events that all of traumatized children in Gaza have: the war and the impact of the war, the loss of their siblings, the loss of their relatives. All of these things make children have nightmares, which is one of the symptoms of PTSD.
Meet Ahmed, Allah, and Mariam, all young adults who grew up in Gaza. They all reside in the U.S. now. Ahmed is a filmmaker from NYU, while Allah and Mariam are graduate students. I asked them to share some of their early memories of their siblings, their families. Here's what Ahmed had to say.
I remember my cousin Adnan, uh, he was killed in 4th of July, right, 2003. I remember, they brought his body to the mosque to pray on him. I was like 9-year-old, like, no, 11-year-old. So I didn't, so in our traditions, they bring the body. We have a search and prayer for the fallen people. And after that, after the prayer, we put the body at a corner in the mosque, and everybody in the mosque and his family, his friends, come and kiss his forehead, right? Kiss the fallen forehead, because it's such an honor if you died by the enemy or by the oppressor. I couldn't believe that Adnan is dead. He's gone. And so basically, as people kissing his forehead, I froze. Like I couldn't, my 11-year-old mind couldn't deal with it. And I remember my uncle screaming at me. It's like, Ahmad, come kiss the martyr. And I was like, I didn't respond. And he really like screamed the second second time, and basically I was the last one from the family to not kiss him because they wanted to carry him to the cemetery. So I went there and I kissed him, and until now, like it feels very vivid because it was like felt like kissing a sponge.
Allah shared her story. It's about her two cousins, aged 8 and 10, who were playing outside of their father's market.
Their dad has a market. He sells chicken. There was a huge explosion where they were playing. They lost their lives and others dead too. A couple of other people dead too. It was one of the most shocking incidents in my life. Until now, you can't see their the smile of their mom. You can't see their mom smiling again. It's just so hard. Her pain was unbearable. She was continuously crying, remembering them, and we all do remember them. They were just little, peaceful children, and they lost their lives, and so many others too.
Studies have estimated that 1 in 4 children in Gaza require psychological help. Over half need assistance for their daily survival. That means food, clean water to drink, and a home that is safe and secure. Assad from the Norwegian Refugee Council told me about a study that found that 61% of the children did not feel safe at home. Another 77% feel that way in school.
Really, it's a long story when you need to talk about the children and the suffers that children really have in Gaza. Children have seen nothing, by the way, in this world or in this life but a blockade, war, and isolation.
This is Mariam.
I remember the constant buzzing of drones, feeling like you're constantly surveilled. Um, and then after just the spectacle of bombing, after a while our hearing got trained that if the plane or the helicopter or whatever is making a certain noise, we know it's about to bomb the house. So we open the windows, and we know, I don't know, your ear just gets trained, like you know which direction is gonna hit almost. And you will see kids in the streets going to watch it happen as if it's just,
really?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even think of how messed up that was until years later.
In 2008, Israel launched Operation Cast Lead, in which 300 children were killed.
I was a coward. I wouldn't look at a dead body.
That was Ahmed, the young man who could not kiss his cousin goodbye at his funeral. He was 15 years old at the time.
It was like around 9 a.m. and at the at the same second, the same minute, right? All the police stations were hit, and now that was a time that 9 a.m. I remember we had that was our final exams, right? So the streets were packed with children going to schools. I remember I was leaving the exam and passing by this police station, and I just passed it, and then they dropped their bombs. Their bombs, like I don't know, God knows, like over 35 police stations across the Gaza Strip were hit in the same second, the same moment, right? And we learned later that all the jet fighters that conducted this operation were females. So they hit it, and basically, these police stations are like a police station, right? Usually, it has a lot of officers, a lot of prisoners, like active. So I remember, like over 1,000 people in that same second were killed. The whole Gaza Strip, like was shaking from the amount of bombs they dropped. So I remember I went back a little bit to the side. And I remember seeing bodies over bodies over bodies, right? I see them. And all the people, of course, rushed in, taking them to the hospital and stuff. But I wouldn't come so close to you know, to the bodies or help moving them. I froze. But again, and I kept watching basically people, civilian cars going in and putting bodies on top of each other in the cars and driving them to the Al-Aqsa hospital near our house. But I wouldn't come like close and help people carrying the bodies.
I remember once a kindergarten teacher telling me how important each stage of childhood development is. Each stage helps to mold a person's personality, their temperament, their talents, their values, their outlook on life. Children can't spend their developing years like they do in Gaza without some kind of massive effect on them.
The question was like this: where do you see yourself after 10 years? One of the children said, in the grave.
Ahmed, Allah, and Mariam told me many stories about their experiences during the bombings. But it's not just the violence that is the issue. The daily living conditions that they have no control over make life difficult. And then there are the military checkpoints. Mariam talked about those.
I don't even know how to describe it. It's very surreal. It's this narrow passage, and you hear soldiers speaking at you from like a place you cannot see. So you know you're being watched, and you're holding your breath. You're like, oh my gosh, I just want to go to school. And you wait for hours, and you get to watch other people, their patients or people that are trying to go to work, also stuck for hours.
Later on, when she applied to study in the US, the waiting became longer.
Difficulties traveling, or being asked such heavy security questions in the embassy, or having such a difficult time to get to the embassy to begin with, to apply for my visa to come here as a student. As a 15-year-old, I never thought I would be viewed as a threat to anyone at the time.
They go, they study, they work hard, and then at the end, unemployment is more than 50% in Gaza. So those young people, after graduation, they get stuck either working as selling coffee, or working in restaurants, or staying home not working at all.
Allah became a mother while still living in Gaza.
I lived my whole life in Gaza, and the only thing I remember is that we always had no electricity. I was young, and then I grew up, and I got married, and it's the same. Like you literally have 6 to 4 hours of electricity every 24 hours. And when I was young, I used to study on candles, and there is no light all the time, and you're very sad, you're very stressed, you're very frustrated. In summer, it's very hot. You have to live in this heat with no electricity, and when there is no electricity, there is no water. I remember when I was pregnant with my first child and second child, I used to sleep most of my time on the floor, trying to cool myself from the floor, because there is no electricity most of the time, and most of the days and nights you don't sleep because of the heat or because of the cold. 97% of the water in Gaza is undrinkable, so it's not even suitable for drinking. But as a mother, I used to give it to my children because I had no option. You look at the water; it's very polluted, it's very yellow. But knowing that your kids will get diseases, malaria, and other diseases, and will go to the hospital, but this is the only thing I can do. They're thirsty, they need to drink. I give them the water. And this is a very sad reality. We have a lot of diseases as a result of this polluted water. It's actually mixed with sewage water.
We consider our situation, this situation, with all of these unbelievable things. This is the normality. You see, it's normal to have 8 hours electricity. It's normal to have a water which is not drinkable. You see, it's normal to not be free to move or to leave Gaza or something. You see, but the community consider this situation is normal. You see, it's not normal. It's abnormal.
Speaking with Ahmed, Allah, and Mariam, I heard two themes over and over. One, that we outsiders to Gaza just don't hear their cries. With 2 million people forced to live in such squalid, unsanitary, and dangerous conditions, how could those of us in a civilized world turn our backs to them? Why do we just not care? The other theme is that these young people refuse to play the victim. No matter how bad conditions are in Gaza, they will go on.
You can't give up. You just have to keep going, because you have to be strong for your kids, for your family, for your friends.
I feel like I didn't do anything for my family or my friends and my relatives to deserve this situation more than us being Palestinian of a certain group of people that just became, victims of the bigger political scheme. And I don't feel like there's much I can do, but I also don't want to think that, because we can't be just victims all the time, and we're not. We have some agency, limited, and I'm still trying to figure out what that even means.
I'm a person at the end of the day. I'm not only victim. I make love. I joke. I cook. I write poetry. I'm a romantic sometimes. Like we're at the end of the day, we're humans.
Without having the international community stand with Palestinian children, will expect a disaster and a crisis.